Hello everybody and welcome along to this particular edition of the Rebel Wide Ball. And it's good news, I suppose, in terms of the vaccines. And when I say vaccine or vaccines, Micheál Martin reckons that in time that there'll be 10 different vaccines made available by obviously a selection of pharmaceutical companies. But the one that seems to be getting a lot of publicity over the last couple of days is the one that was developed by Pfizer, the Pfizer's BioNTech one. And the British government did steal a bit of a march on everybody by announcing that their regulatory agency has deemed this vaccine as really suitable and they're going to start administering it next week. I think that caused a little bit of a surprise, but the Minister for Education over there, a fella called Gavin Williamson, I reckon he probably went to the Trump School of Education when he declared that the reason why Britain are ahead of everyone is because they're a better country, better than all the European countries, better than the Americans. My God, they're a nation that continue to keep on giving. But anyway, in terms of Ireland, we're following seemingly the European Medicines Agency, and they have yet to give the green light to the various vaccines. I think that's going to happen towards the end of this month and the start of the new year. But it would appear that, it's a positive development. Where would we be without Leo coming out another one of these statements that he makes with seemingly at the Fine Gael parliamentary party last night? He did point to the possibility of some side effects that may arise, and of course this did not meet everybody's approval, particularly when the government will be trying to ensure that at least 70% of the population take this particular vaccine. And as you know, like there are the anti-vaxxers out there, and these are made up of people with different agendas and different concerns. Some of them, I suppose, are individuals who, would harbour real fears about taking any vaccine. And of course, then some of them belong to, I suppose, the fringe element that are against everything and probably for nothing. But anyway, regardless of that, please God that, the government vaccination policy, which will be announced next week, and that'll keep us, I suppose, guessing as to who and what categories of people are going to get the vaccine first. But the very fact that we're able to talk about vaccines now, it's incredible when you think of the last vaccine that was brought to the market. Did it take something like 4 years before they were able to say that it was safe? This was developed over a much shorter period of time, 5 or 6 months. And, if everything is as they say it is, it's an incredible contribution by the scientists of the planet. Anyway, that's the vaccines out of the way. Good news, I suppose, on the sporting front, particularly for the teams that are left in the concluding stages of the All-Ireland competitions, whether it is the Senior Hurling Final, the Senior Football Semi-Finals, the Camogie Final and the Ladies Football Semi-Final and Final, that the full panels can now go to the matches. And I think this is obviously most fair-minded people suggest that this is only right and proper. And, talking to one or two people who were involved in this, seemingly it was heartbreaking. It was just tough enough to pick the team, then to have to pick the panel and to tell 8 to 10 people that they can't even go to the match. And, that was particularly difficult for the management and for the players who were on receipt of this news. But anyway, that has been all sorted. And from now until the All-Ireland finals, please God that the full panels can be in attendance. Also, it was good news, I suppose, for the management of county minor and under 20 teams, that these competitions are going to resume. And here in Munster, the minor hurling competition, as you know, Cork defeated Clare in the first round. They play Limerick in the semi-final. That goes on Saturday week next, the 12th of December at 1 o'clock in Simple Stadium. And the final, I think, is fixed in for the 20th of December. The football, I don't think there's any game played in this competition yet, but the semi-final is the big one from a Cork point of view. They take on Kerry and Tralee on Tuesday the 15th of December, with the final to be played a week after that. And finally, the under-20 hurling, as you know, Cork had a victory over Kerry in that, and they now play Limerick, and that the arrangements of that will be made next week. And of course, the only game in the under-20 football competition, the All-Ireland final between Galway and Dublin, and that will go ahead as a curtain raiser to the All-Ireland final. But this weekend is All-Ireland football semi-final weekend, and of course, the Dubs are going to, I was going to say are still there. The Dubs will take on Cavan in one semi-final, and I don't know, would you find anybody who will make a case for the Cavan lads, except for what an unbelievable season they've had this year when they came from absolutely nowhere to win the Ulster Championship. And, they travelled to Croke Park. There was some talks that maybe the match would be played somewhere else, but the Cavan GA folk wanted it in Croke Park, and probably rightly so from their point of view. Mickey Graham is their mercurial manager, and who knows, maybe that he'd have another unbelievable and pull off the biggest shock in Irish sport for over a century. We're getting to know some of these Cavan players. The Galligan cousins, Tomas, the guy who kicked that equalising point, that winning point against Monaghan, and his brother, he's Raymond, the goalkeeper, and his first cousin Tomas, who's turning out to be obviously he was always a great footballer, but he's now being brought to our attention and spoken about in some quarters as a possible contender for Footballer of the Year. He lines up midfield, and then you get Rowan McKiernan, who operates at centre forward, and this guy Conor Madden, who came on as a sub and got 1-2 against Donegal the last day out, but you'll look to be very fair about it. You can only see one winner in this one, which will be played on Saturday at 5:30. The game on Sunday, though, is the one between Mayo and Tipperary that most of us are looking forward to. Like this Mayo team, they defeated Roscommon in the Hyde, defeated Galway and Salt Hill. Are they different to other Mayo teams? Well, for a start, are they as good as other Mayo teams? We should ask ourselves, because, these teams in the past, just because they didn't win in All-Ireland, they had some incredible players. But they have made a couple of changes. I think that they carried out a search of the county last year, and they have found a number of new players. I haven't heard of them in the past, and new fellas like Oisin Mullen, who plays at cornerback, and Owen McLaughlin at wing-back. Two young players that are making a big impression on that particular side of the defence. And then you have Conor Loftus at midfield, and corner forward you've got a guy called Tommy Conroy. But some of the old guns are still there. The O'Connor brothers, Diarmid and Killian. Sometimes these guys disappoint me, but maybe this is going to be their year. Aidan O'Shea, that big operator at full forward. Does he play midfield or full forward? I'm not too sure. And then you have Lee Keegan and Paddy Durkin, who got a really important goal against, I think, Tipperary in the 2016 semi-final. Their kickouts are amazing in terms of, I suppose, their goalkeeper, David Clark. I don't know what it is about him, and he must be a good goalkeeper. Like, there are plenty of goalkeepers in Mayo, and he is still the number one, but sometimes his kick-out can cause, I'd imagine, the heartbeat of some Mayo supporters to beat a little bit at a higher level than it should for their own sakes. They will be favourites to take on Tipperary, and I think they're going to do the business there, because, look, the twin striking force that absolutely destroyed Cork, Conor Sweeney and Mickey Quinlivan, they were able to field ball, and it was amazing in that match that in 3 of the restarts from the throw-in, after the first water break and after half-time, that Tipperary scored the first 3 scores, all came from the mark. And I would imagine that whoever will be marking Conor Sweeney on Sunday will make sure that he's not going to be able to catch the ball over his head as easily he did, unfortunately, from a Cork point of view against Cork. But look, it's going to be an incredible day for the people that follow the Tipperary football. They won't be there, but they'll be glued to their whatever viewing appliances they will use in the day. Colin O'Riordan, he's still around the place. He hasn't gone back to Australia. He was a huge influence. I didn't think he would be the last day, but he was. And having come up for their goalkeeper, as well as being good between the posts, he's also able to kick balls over the bar, and I think he kicked a really important one against Cork when Cork came back to 2 points. And then you have the 2 guys who didn't go away. That's Liam Casey at midfield, who's outstanding, and Jimmy Feehan at full back. And of course, Brian Fox, who's been there for so many years, 33 years of age, and he gets his Munster medal after all of that. And of course, the Barry Rowe player, Robbie Kiley. So we'd be hoping, obviously, we would be hoping, wouldn't we, that Tipperary could spring another bit of a surprise and get to an All-Ireland final. For the year that's in it, you could nearly see it happening. But I think that Mayo are going to be well up for this match, and I think they'll have seen the way they played against Cork, and they know that, there's no doubt about it, that Tipperary have good footballers. That's beyond discussion. But they will have seen the way they have played, and they'll have surely come up with some sort of tactic or a number of tactics to curb their influence. It's a big weekend for the Cork ladies footballers, and my God, last week, when Cork played Kilkenny in the Camogie, we thought that was going to be a victory for Cork, and it's the second year now that the Cork Camogie team were beaten, and I noticed the management were very critical of the referee. I'm not too sure, would there be some criticism of themselves maybe? I think sometimes, when you're criticising referees all the time. But anyway, it was a disappointing result, absolutely no doubt in the world about it. The ladies footballers played Galway this weekend, and this match has caused a lot of controversy in terms of the location of the game. This game was meant to be played last weekend with the Dublin Armagh game, which Dublin won and are now in the All-Ireland final. But it was changed because of, the Cork players involved with the Camogie team and the ladies. They fixed the game then for Limerick, which I think was a mistake. They had to wait. I think they should have waited until what was this case? Because the Gaelic grounds is now unavailable because the Limerick senior hurling team are training. And then all of a sudden the game is switched to Dublin. I don't know why it couldn't be played in Ennis, why it couldn't be played in Portlaoise, or why it couldn't be played in Thurles. Some of these, I think Thurles said there was a problem with stewards. I was a suspicion myself the reason why it has gone to Parnell Park is the All-Ireland Junior Ladies Football Final is on Saturday, and the TG Car, which sponsored this competition and which will show it live, will have all their crew there, all their cameras, all their riggers and all that. And did it suit them to have this match? Because it was a logistical nightmare. This is going to cost the Cork ladies, and I presume the Galway ladies about 6,000 each extra. And this is money that these organisations find, they're not flush with money or anything like that. And, then there are COVID concerns, and Aoife Fitzgerald, who is, he's a good a good manager, but he's also serious concerns about player welfare. But anyway, as the saying goes, that's the way it is now. So Cork will travel there on Sunday for a 1:30 throw-in against Galway. And, the Cork team is, a strong team, and they didn't win the All-Ireland since 2016. They'll be hoping to get over Galway, who play very defensive football, but they're not going to be taking anything for granted. The Galway team have some outstanding players. The Ward sisters, who be well known. Nicola is a wing back, and Louise plays at midfield. The team captain is a lady called Charlotte Cooney. Her sister, by the way, won't be playing on this occasion. She was red carded the last day against Monaghan. That's Fabienne Cooney. She'll be a bit of a loss to them. Tracy Leonard is their main go-to person. She operates at full forward. And the Cork team is selected during the week. I think there may be changes to the side. Martine O'Brien is is their long-serving goalkeeper, an outstanding goalkeeper, and it makes such a big difference. And you have players like Roisin Phelan operate full back, and the half-back line. Melissa Duggan and Aisling Hutchins will be probably operating there somewhere. Erica O'Shea as well is a really good young player. The midfield player, pairing that has been selected, Hannah Looney, who was part of the Cork Camogie team, and Marie O'Callaghan. They're a strong pairing. But it's up front that Cork are really will be hoping they hold the aces in this one. Saoirse Noonan, who is a talented soccer player as well. And I know in the past maybe they've been she's a very young player, that there could have been question marks about her. There was never about her scoring, but her work off the ball, and seemingly that has been well addressed, and she's a real threat now. And then you have the O'Sullivan sisters. Ciara operates usually centre forward, Dermot full forward, and Orla Finn maybe not scoring as much this year as she normally would have, as she's out her own wing forward, and Anya Terry O'Sullivan all the way from the Beara Peninsula, and Emer Coyley there, the girls that get the start. As I said, there may be some changes, because when you look at this, the bench, Orla Farmer is there, who's a good footballer, as is Niamh Cotter, who, she transferred to Kilmacud Crows because she was working in Dublin. She's back in Cork now, and so she's part of the panel, and I wouldn't be surprised if she made an appearance Sunday. And Maeve Cahalan as well, who was playing the last day. Very good defender, and Yuvli B. Coppinger, who was a Camogie player. But I think this is going to be a big panel effort. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that game. It's on TG Carr, and we'll be hoping that Cork will get through to an All-Ireland final against the Dubs, who are all their players back, and they're as good as the Dublin team that have already won 3 in a row. They'll be strong favourites, but for the moment, Cork won't be looking beyond the big game in Parnell Park, and hopefully they'll be able to do the business in that one. And then, of course, we move on to soccer, and what an incredible week it was for a young Cork man, Kevin Kelleher, who he's the third choice goalkeeper at Liverpool, and during the week, the main goalkeeper, the number 1 goalkeeper, was injured. I think shortly before the game when they played Ajax in the Champions League, and Ellison is their second choice goalkeeper, and for some reason Jurgen Klopp decided to give the Corkman his chance, and it was an incredible performance, even for those of us that mightn't be Liverpool fans. Certainly Cork people were hoping that maybe Liverpool would win this one, and that he'd keep a clean sheet, and he becomes the first Irishman to keep a clean sheet in the Champions League, and I think the first Liverpool goalkeeper with about 18 years. And not only did he keep a clean sheet, but he was absolutely, a superb man of the match, made one terrific save towards the end of the game. But it was the coolness about him, and he's such a calm, and only 22 years of age. So the big question always, will he get selected for the game at the weekend? They play Wolves in the Premier League. That's going to be a big test. But after the game, the Kevin, I suppose, he became the first Corkman to get a hug of a person of any gender with the past 7 or 8 months, when Jurgen Klopp made from the Liverpool bench and straight over for him. People were kind of, where is he from and all that? Well, he's from, lives in Blackrock. Both his parents were PE teachers. His late father Ray was a PE teacher in Pres. Sadly passed away in 2014, and was very much involved with the Dawneys GA club in terms of being a player, and he was part of the coaching staff when they won counties in 1993 and 1995. So there's real West Cork blood in this man. His mother Jackie, who's a PE teacher in Christ the King Secondary School, I think she's a Dublin lady, but and when they were growing up, he played with Ringmahon Rangers. So it's an absolutely great story. It's not too often that, it's a long time since I remember a Corkman playing with a leading club, playing go with a leading club. So we were delighted. Normally, for those of us that don't follow Liverpool, you'd be hoping their goalkeeper would have a pain in his back picking the ball out of the back of the net, but not on this occasion. And such a great family, and such by all accounts, a really, really sound young man. So he was, I suppose it was the work that was done at Ringmahon Rangers, his family background and all of that. It was an incredible day, an incredible night for him to make his Champions League debut. He'd played a few kind of cup games maybe with Liverpool up to then. For the other club that may be a little bit closer to our heart, Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they won last weekend. We saw that when they came from behind. I don't know what it is about this man. He just wins enough matches to keep on to his job. But during the week in the same Champions League, when they were expected to maybe qualify, because it's a big thing to qualify early in this with the whole schedule of games, but they didn't, and Paris Saint-Germain put 3 goals past them. So they have a big game coming up at the weekend now against West Ham, and were they to beat that, were they to lose that, would there be question marks again about the mighty Ole, whether he'd hold on to his jobs or not. The other big games for people on this side of the water, the follow teams, you have Spurs, who are amazingly at the top of the Premier League. They play Arsenal, who are really, really suffering. And that's always kind of, I think they're a North London derby. And they wouldn't be two clubs that certainly wouldn't like each other. We'd have a lot of followers of them. And then we have that Liverpool and Wolves game that we mentioned to you. And, Chelsea play Leeds United. Quite a number of followers from, I suppose, Chelsea and Leeds United in this country. And Leeds who've been doing quite well since they, since they were promoted. So finally, we just look at what's happening in the world of the oval ball. And this Autumn Nations Cup comes to a conclusion this weekend, and it certainly hasn't, I think, captured the imagination. Basically, it is a series of challenge games to raise a few bucks, I suppose. But Ireland, according to all the experts, have been very underwhelming so far. You know, they defeated Italy, yeah, but everybody defeats Italy. Then they suffered a setback against England. That was kind of expected. But last week against Georgia, I think was it 3 points in the second half, and they're getting a lot of stick. And Andy Farrell, who's the team coach, I suppose he bears the brunt of it. However, maybe it is better that they're playing poorly. Normally Ireland would be doing well in this situation, then when the big ones come up. So the big one this year is the Six Nations, which will be starting after Christmas. But anyway, this weekend they play Scotland. It's kind of called the third and fourth playoff in this competition that you'll probably have forgotten about by the time this is over. And, you know, they'd normally be beating Scotland. You know, I can't ever remember Ireland being under any great pressure playing the Scots. But who knows? This could be the weekend. So till the next time, take care and mind yourself.